we start our discussion by looking at a typical day in the life of a network security manager, of real-world network security managers. And in the bracket, you will see a page number which indicate this slide is discussed on page 420 in our reading material. So, for a typical network security manager, he spends most of his time doing three things. Let me go through them one by one. First, the security manager will be responding to any security accidents that are happening. This is the most urgent responsibility of the security manager. So here, the analogy for this responsibility is firefighting. When a house is on fire, you know how urgent it is, cause there is only a certain time window within which firefighting is most effective. So, when there are serious security accidents happening, the security manager will need to work with his team, his group, and quickly respond to the security accident. Typically, there will be a security accident response plan that is already pre-developed for this purpose. So in most cases, the security manager and his group can respond to the security accidents based on the response plan, which is previously developed and evaluated. Okay, now the second responsibility for a network security manager is to look inside towards the network that is managed by the manager. And looking inside the network, the main responsibility of the network security manager is to monitor and become aware of what is going on. So, to achieve this goal, the network manager will need to be continuously monitoring the network and looking for symptoms of compromised machines. By symptoms, we mean infection caused by an intrusion. For example, a virus or a remote exploit or distributed denial of service attack. Typically, the network security manager will rely on several means to get symptoms, including an intrusion detection system, including a security audit log, including some other types of security monitoring tools. For example, the security manager could use a file integrity checker to check whether some system file are modified maliciously or not. Besides security monitoring, another main responsibility of the security manager is to check the vulnerability of the enterprise network, including all the computers, all the software that are installed on the computers, all the programs, applications that are running currently or are going to be executed soon, and finally all the hardware equipment, including the firmware inside a router, inside a firewall, finally all the mobile devices either owned by the organization or owned by the employees. For this purpose, the security manager can use all kinds of vulnerability scanners. For example, Nessus is a good scanner for the security manager to use. Nmap is another one. Using the vulnerability scanners, the security manager can periodically analyze the emerging vulnerabilities or the newly identified vulnerabilities. Okay, this is the second responsibility of the security manager. Now, let's continue. And the third main responsibility of a security manager is to look outside the organization by searching potential security holes and new attacks. For example, a security manager would need to go to some outside information sources, including cert.org and sans.org. They are the two leading information sources for potential security holes and new attacks and new vulnerabilities. Through looking outside, the security manager can notice some new vulnerabilities that he has not noticed before, even after his vulnerability analysis process. So after we look into a typical day of a network security manager, I guess we already have a good sense regarding the key components of security management. So on this slide, I give you a simple overview of the job of security management. Basically, this job can be decomposed into four major aspects. Aspect A, risk assessment. The goal of risk assessment is to know how likely the organization's network is going to be or is to be intruded, is to be attacked, is to be infected by cyber attacks. And aspect B is business continuity. The goal of business continuity is to quickly respond to security accidents and recover from security accidents while keeping the main organization's business as functional as possible. Aspect C of security management is intrusion prevention. The goal of intrusion prevention is to prevent intrusions from becoming successful. The more intrusion prevention, the better intrusion prevention, then the less concern on business continuity, the less concern on disaster response, right? And aspect D, the last aspect, is compliance and audit. By compliance, we mean the organization needs to ensure compliance in terms of certain cyber security oriented federal and state government laws and regulations. So on the slide here, I listed several for you to further study. One is HIPAA, which is a privacy law that every hospital and healthcare provider must ensure compliance. And SOX Act is another law, and California's SB 1386 is a state government law. Since the law and regulations are not really covered in the reading material, so I encourage our students to do self-study on this aspect of security management. In the following slides, we will go through aspect A, aspect C, and aspect B one by one. Before we start our discussion on aspect A, risk assessment, let me first give you some implications for management based on what we have learned so far. The first implementation is on the cost of network security and security management. I hope our students can realize that the cost will continue to increase. But on the other hand, the cost of traditional networking technologies may relatively decrease. They may decrease. And the cost, so as they decrease, the cost of network security and security management is becoming a larger portion of an organization's networking budget. That means security management is nowadays consuming a larger portion of the total networking budget of an organization. The second implication is on compliance. Due to the recent security accidents and the widespreading cyber attacks and the serious security accidents that are reported on national medium such as New York Times. So there is many people in the security industry and in other sectors of industry believe that regulation-based and law-based compliance and audit requirements will become tougher in the coming years. So this is an important implication for management. The third implication is that security tools will continue to increase in sophistication. Okay, if our students already think that the current security tools are sophisticated and not easy to understand and use, the situation is not going to become much better in near future. Okay, and one reason for this sophistication is that there is an arms race between the organizations and the attackers. And the attackers are developing more sophisticated, more stealthy attacks every day. This is why the organizations must catch up in terms of the security tools. The last implication on this slide is that software and application security is becoming a bigger and bigger factor. For example, mobile applications that run on mobile devices, such as a smartphone, a smartwatch, a tablet, are emerging very, very quickly. So due to this emergence, applications security are becoming more and more important in terms of security management in an enterprise. On this slide and several following slides, we will discuss part A of security management, which is risk assessment. In an organization or an enterprise, risk assessment is viewed as a management process. So it is definitely not technology driven. It is not technology centric. It is management driven. It is process centric. So I hope our students can realize risk management is essentially a management process, which includes 3 steps. Step 1, identify the assets and the threats. Step 2, document the existing security controls which are deployed in the organization. Step 3, evaluate the network's security and generate the risk assessment results. In the following slides, we will go through the 3 steps one by one. Slide 6. On this slide, we focus on step 1 of risk assessment, which is the process of identifying the assets and the threats. So, to clarify the meaning of this step, to understand step 1 clearly, we need to firstly understand 2 critical concepts. One is assets. Another is threats. What is shown on the slide is a spreadsheet. This spreadsheet is widely used in real-world organizations, and it has a specific name. That is, it is called the control spreadsheet. Okay, this is a critical means a critical method used in risk assessment. If you look at the spreadsheet, you will quickly realize every row corresponds to a particular asset, and every column corresponds to a particular threat. Now, let's look at the set of rows, the set of assets. Let me read from the first asset until the last one. Mail server, web server, domain name service server, computers on 6th floor local area network circuits, building a backbone, router in building A, backbone, network backbone, router in building A, network software, client database, financial database. Based on the concrete example assets, I hope our students can realize the basic idea of an asset. By an asset, we mean hardware or software that is important for the organization to get business done. It's important for the organization to fulfill the organization's mission, right? And a vision. So that's the basic idea of regarding what is an asset. We can roughly classify the asset into hardware and software. And for hardware, we can further classify hardware assets into routers, computers, servers, desktops, smartphones, tablets, cables, switches, printers, and so on. And we can also roughly classify the software into database software, web server application software, telnet service application software, file server software, and web application software that are used to do accounting, that are used to do finance, that are used to do human resources, etc. Also, Office software, right? Like Microsoft Office, right? Software which is critical, and email server, email client software. Let me see. What else? Basically, the software that the organization will rely on to get business done. Okay. Now, let's look at the concept of threats. This is actually pretty easy to understand, because in topic 1, the whole topic of topic 1 focus on the potential threats. So if you recall what we learned in topic 1, you will realize by a threat, it means an attack that could be happening in the next minute, next hour, next day for the inside the organization's network. By a threat, it means an intrusion, okay, that can compromise some hardware or software, some assets of the organization. And by threats, it could mean whether the attacker is local, is an outsider of the organization, or is a malicious insider. By threat, it could also mean the intrusion scenario, right? For example, blind remote exploit, local exploit, or physical attack. On this slide, we focus on step 2 of risk assessment, which is documenting the controls into the control spreadsheet. We know the center of the control spreadsheet shown in the previous slides incorporates all the security controls that are currently in the network. Here I give you several major categories of security controls. One major category is access control. For example, firewall packet filtering is a dominant access control mechanism which is deployed in everywhere. I mean, in all the organizations. Another major category of security controls is authentication. For example, password. Every organization have requirements on how often to modify a password and how strong a password should be. Those are the authentication controls. Advanced authentication controls including public key crypto-based tokens and second factor authentications like a fingerprint. Those are all authentication oriented security controls. Another major category of security control is encryption. For example, VPN is actually one type of security control. Through this type of control, every message will be encrypted when it leaves an enterprise network and get into and flows into the internet, the jungle. Finally, another major category of security control is intrusion detection. This security control basically says that every packet must be analyzed based on based on certain intrusion detection rules. For example, snort rules, which we learned in topic 7. On this slide, we focus on step 3 of risk assessment, which is evaluating the network's security and generating the risk assessment results. In step 3, we need to answer 2 questions. How to do risk? How to evaluate the risk exactly, and what will the risk assessment result looks like. Okay, so regarding how exactly to evaluate the risk, we have 2 main aspects. One aspect is that step 3 should focus on evaluating the adequacy of the existing security controls. The evaluator will review each set of controls as it relates to each threat and the network component. By network component, we mean certain assets of the organization. And when this review is conducted, the evaluator should answer specific questions instead of general purpose questions. For example, the evaluator should answer this question, that is, are security control X, is security control X adequate to effectively prevent threat Y, which is threatening asset Z. Okay, so this is a typical question that the evaluator should answer when he or she is evaluating the adequacy of the existing controls. The other aspect of risk evaluation is evaluating the resulting degree of risk associated with each threat in terms of the related assets. After the adequacy of a security control X is evaluated, the evaluator can move forward and evaluate how likely the limited adequacy, okay, which could be the result of the adequacy evaluation process, right? Whether the limited adequacy will lead to any likelihood that a particular threat could become a real attack that is damaging and that can compromise how many assets to which extent. Okay. Let me summarize. Through adequacy evaluation, the evaluator will notice certain inadequacy. By inadequacy, I mean some limitations of the existing security controls. The limitations will give the attacker opportunities, right? So the limitation should be reviewed by the evaluator to see how likely the limitation can be exploited by the attacker, and in which way. Which kind of attacks can exploit the limitations. We can also call such limitations weaknesses, and when such attacks become successful, what assets will be affected and to which extent. So this is the second aspect of risk evaluation. Okay, now we move on and discuss what the risk assessment results should look like. Here, I give you one example. One risk assessment result is as simple as a ranking. In this result, the evaluator will rank the threats based on the risk associated with them. After this ranking is generated, the network security manager will be pretty clear in terms of which threats must be addressed immediately. This is a clear benefit of risk assessment. Besides ranking, the risk assessment results could be represented in other format. Okay, no matter it is in a more quantitative format or more qualitative format. Okay, both are reasonable, both could be very helpful. Final note on step 3 is on who will do the risk assessment. Okay, when our students could think, oh, we just need the security manager to do the risk assessment. This is usually not sufficient. In fact, risk assessment should be done by a team denoted the Delphi team in the industry. The team, based on the best practice, should be composed of 3 to 9 key people, and the security managers should be team members. On this slide, we summarize risk assessment by using the control spreadsheet method again. If you look at the control spreadsheet shown on this slide, you will notice one difference from the previous control spreadsheet. That is, in the center of the spreadsheet, we already have some security controls filled in. Now, you will get a complete control spreadsheet. So let me summarize. Each row corresponds to an asset. Each column corresponds to a thread, and inside the spreadsheet, the existing security controls should be filled in, okay? And of course, filled in the right location. And through the control spreadsheet, the risk assessment team can do risk assessment as follows. For every combination of asset X, threat Y, control Z, the risk assessment team should answer several specific questions. For example, the adequacy question. For example, the limitation question. For example, the weakness question. Then, based on the answers of the question, the risk assessment team can assess the likelihood that a weakness would be or will be or is going to be exploited by the attacker, and due to this attack, which assets will be damaged to which extent. And then the assessment results will be presented, for example, through a ranking. On this slide, we are going to discuss part B of security management, which is business continuity. By continuity, we mean after intrusions happened, after part of the computer network is compromised, how to minimize the downtime if the downtime cannot be totally avoided. In another word, how to ensure that most of the critical functionalities and services that the business relies on can get continued, even if the intrusion is already happening, and even if some computers are already compromised. So, the systematic management approach for business continuity is the development and maintenance and the usage of a recovery plan. In the following slides, before we talk about the recovery plan, we will first conduct 3 case studies to illustrate the management focuses on this aspect of security management. The first case study is on distributed denial of service attack. The second is on device failures, in particular power generator failures. And the third case study is on a natural disaster, which is firefighting. On this slide, we discuss the first case study on business continuity, which is a DDoS attack that happened to a e-commerce company. In particular, StormPay is an e-commerce payment processor. So customers can pay for a e-commerce service through the StormPay StormPay facility, right? Which is typically a web application, right? That is running, that is embedded in a particular in some e-commerce websites. So whenever a customer arrives at the payment stage, this StormPay web application can get executed and can enable the customer to pay, and later on StormPay will transfer the payment back to the e-commerce vendor. So this payment processor is used by many web hosting companies. So this means the customers of the web hosting companies will enjoy the web hosting service. So their websites can be hosted by the web hosting companies. Of course, they need to pay for the web hosting services, right? And during this particular DDoS attack, it's observed that 120,000 zombies were used to launch this attack. Recall that in topic 1, we have introduced and discussed the mechanism of distributed denial service attack in depth. So here, if you are no longer that clear about how a DDoS works, please refer to our topic 1 discussions and lectures. So when this DDoS attack is launched, many zombie computers which had been compromised before the attack time would receive commands, the launch attack commands from a particular master computer. Then all the zombie computers will send out requests in maximum speed, at maximum speed, towards a particular target. And here, the target is a particular, the target is a server that handles all the StormPay transactions. So that's the target computer. So when the target computer is receiving 6 gigabits per second traffic, network traffic, from all the 120,000 zombie computers, the StormPay server can no longer handle all the requests, okay? And as a consequence, the StormPay server or StormPay website is down for several days. So that's a very serious consequence. That means during the several days, no good, legitimate transaction can be processed by StormPay. So all the business and income that StormPay would otherwise get, right, through the set of days will all kind of get lost. So that's a big, okay, financial loss to this company. And later on, through intrusion investigation, people found that the attacker's motivation is a revenge. That is, one particular website, they are providing a controversial service that pays users to view internet ads. And due to this controversial service, the web hosting companies do not want to host this website anymore. And as a consequence, this provider of this controversial service decided to do revenge, because their account inside StormPay system is frozen, so nobody can use this account to pay, okay, to pay this particular service provider any money, okay. So this service provider got upset and decided to revenge. So here we kind of know why the attacker decided to launch the attack, and we also learned how the attack worked, okay, and we also learned the main consequence of this attack. And this case study emphasizes on how serious an intrusion could be if there were not a good recovery plan if there were not effective procedures to recover from the DDoS attack. And actually, in this case study, how to resume storm pay and how to recover from the intrusion are not really mentioned, because the focus of this case study is to let our students realize without effective recovery plan, without effective recovery procedures, how bad the consequence could be. On this slide, we discuss the second case study on the business continuity aspect of network security. So this case study is about how a hospital recovered from Katrina hurricane in the year of 2005. Okay. We all know the Katrina hurricane is one of the most damaging hurricane that have happened in the history. In 2005, Katrina hurricane happened in New Orleans. And if we look at a particular hospital or Chestnut Hospital, we can understand the business continuity issues from this particular angle. So for this particular hospital, the critical asset is the patient record system. So it is a server computer network system that stores all the patient health records. So it's a critical asset of the hospital. Due to the hurricane, the Katrina hurricane, and due to lack of sufficient preparation before the Katrina hurricane happened, the consequence is serious, okay, during this disaster. Okay, in particular, power supply for the whole hospital is cut down. Power grids did not work. And as a consequence, the temperature grew quickly to 150 degrees in the server room. Because there is no power, so there is no air conditioning. This is why the server room got so hot. We know computer systems, for example, servers, cannot tolerate very high temperature. Okay, this is why every server will rely on an internal fan to make sure the internal temperature is not so high. And every server room will rely on air conditioning, intense air conditioning, to make sure the temperature in the server room is not too high. But due to the Katrina disaster, hurricane, none of the two things could be done, and the server room became extremely hot. Of course, the hospital has 3 backup power generators, but they lost 2 of the 3 due to the hurricane. Okay, 2 of the 3 backup power generators broken. So only 1 backup power generator is working. So they can only get minimum power supply for not only the server they rely on, but also the air conditioning they need to lower the temperature in the server room. So as a consequence, the manager, the administrator had to shut down some servers, okay, so that the server room will not be too hot, and only keep the email servers alive. And a primary motivation to keep the email servers alive is as follows. First, they do need business continuity. Okay, because we know hospitals share patient records with each other, and the patient records can be very critical for emergency healthcare. Okay, so this is why they have a strong motivation to provide business continuity. This is reason 1. Reason 2, due to the Katrina hurricane, the phone system is broken. The phone lines are down, so they cannot receive phone calls or make any phone call. This means when another hospital would like to retrieve a patient record from the Chestnut hospital, the other hospital cannot even call. Okay, cannot even get any information through a phone call. This is why email servers become literally the only hope to provide any business continuity. And the business servers are kind of the best, the most business continuity this hospital can provide. Okay, so regarding how they maintain continuity during the disaster, we have already provided the answer. First, they cannot make a phone call, they cannot receive a phone call because the phone lines are down. Second, to provide business continuity, they kept the email servers alive, so the other hospitals can send in an email, and this hospital can reply an email, and this hospital can email a patient health care record to another healthcare provider. Okay, so this is really good news given how bad the situation is. So this is good news for this particular hospital during the Katrina hurricane, but there are several bad news as well. For example, all the records in paper files, they are all damaged by water, and they cannot be recovered after the Katrina disaster. So this case study told us that the backup power generators are very useful, and providing alternative communication capabilities is critical. For example, here, besides telephone system, the alternative data communication facility is the email servers. So the maintaining alternative or providing alternatives is critical for business continuity. And finally, some backup and preparations actually failed, okay, during the disaster. For example, the paper, the hard copies of the patient records are typically a very reliable form of backup, but in this hurricane disaster, even hard copy patient records are damaged and cannot be recovered. On this slide, we study the third case study for the business continuity aspect of security management. And this case study is about a fire caught on a campus building in University of Georgia. It's a major building, and the fire situation is very bad, so that 100 firefighters participated in fighting the fire. Okay. Because the situation is very bad, all the personal assets are burned, including hard copies, furnitures, computers in the building, etc., etc. All the personal assets are burned. Okay. So it seems it's a disaster for business continuity. But this case study actually told us that through a solid recovery plan and a backup plan, actually the situation could become much better than expected. So here, although everything, every computer, every disk, every hard copy, every file folder, every furniture, every network equipment in the building are burned, but turns out that this department can still achieve good business continuity. So here is why they could achieve pretty good business continuity even when a very bad fire accident happened to the building. Through their backup plan, the web server which the department relies on maintains a web server backup on the other side of the campus. So this is really a very good backup strategy. So although the web server machine in this building is 100% burned and got useless, this department was able to switch the web survey, switch to the backup web server, which is located on other side of the campus, which is located in another building. Okay, so the department was able to kind of forward and redirect the HTTP request to the backup web server. Okay, within like a short period of time, like roughly 1 hour, the backup web server is up and running, and is doing well. So through the backup web server, the department is able to achieve 90% continuity, which is a very good news, given how bad the situation is. Okay, and the department was able to redirect all traffic, including HTTP, website traffic, and email traffic, to a temporary server, which is already located on other side of the campus. Okay, and this is a very good news. However, there is also a bad news. That is, although the backup tapes are not in the building, the backup tapes are actually in another building, but the tape readers are burned by the fire. So they could not quickly use the backup tape. So this is bad news, okay, regarding this business continuity case study. And the lessons learned from the case study is besides the backup tapes, the tapes that back up the server data, the emails, etc. Besides the tapes, the tape readers should also maintain a backup in a different building. Second, the department should have the DNS, domain name service infrastructure, set up beforehand. And they could not achieve 100% business continuity, partially due to the reason is that they need to set up the DNS system, domain name service system, on the fly after the fire. And it did take them some time to set up the DNS infrastructure properly. We know, okay, if the DNS server is burned, then for the remote client, when they want to send a HTTP request to the original web server, the request, the destination host name contained in the HTTP request cannot be translated into IP address if the local DNS server is burned. So as a result, the client, they have to wait until a new DNS server is set up to hold the host name to IP address translation facility, right? It is essentially a table inside a particular server, so that whenever the DNS server receives a particular host name, the DNS server can look up the translation table and know the corresponding IP address. So here, because the backup or the replication of the local DNS server is not maintained, so the department has to kind of set up, has to rebuild the DNS server for the website. Okay, of course, rebuilding the DNS server will take some time. So this is one lesson learned from this case study. Through the previous 3 case studies, we can learn several critical aspects of business continuity. And usually the case studies could tell us what are the limitations with a particular hospital, a particular department at a university, etc., in terms of their business continuity management, in terms of their recovery plan in terms of the things they did right and the things they didn't do rightly. Okay. On this slide, we conclude part B of security management by introducing a systematic approach in terms of systematic approach for business continuity. And this systematic approach is denoted as recovery plan. So this management approach says that to make sure an organization can provide good business continuity, the organization must develop a very good recovery plan. Okay, so what is a good recovery plan? Okay, on this slide, I give you a quick answer. A good, effective recovery plan should focus on two things. One, the recovery plan should clarify who will take which responsibility when a security accident happens, when a natural disaster happens. In other words, the recovery plan should list people in charge, list the names explicitly, okay, and also list the responsibilities associated with each name, also explicitly and concretely. In addition, the team members, the staff assistants, their names should also be listed. Every recovery plan, okay, should focus on this, because this is very important. This is a big difference between a effective recovery plan and a ineffective recovery plan. Okay, the second focus of a good recovery plan is the procedures to recover from a security accident. The procedures must be very concrete, so people can follow the procedures step by step, can convert the written down procedures into actions that people can take. Okay, so what are the important procedures that should be written down in the recovery plan? First, the first major item is the alternative facilities. That means that this part should describe what the alternative facilities are. They are an alternative for what facility in the organization, location of the alternative facility, and vendor information, and how to run the alternative facility, etc. In this way, during the disaster, the primary servers, network equipment could be totally damaged. But if we know where the alternative facilities are located, we could switch over the business requests and the business functionalities to the alternative facilities quickly. The second major procedures is the recovery procedures for the data communication facilities. The recovery procedures should be very concrete in a step-by-step manner, right? So it should indicate clearly how the people in charge can take actions step by step, okay, so that the data communication facilities can be recovered. And during each step of the procedure, the associated contact information, vendor information, configuration information, etc. should all be included, okay, in the recovery procedures. The third item in the recovery procedures is the actions to be taken in case of physical damage. For example, hurricane, right? For example, fire, okay, caught on fire. So, in case of physical damage, there should be a clear procedures in terms of what actions should be taken, who will be responsible for taking the actions, etc. The fourth item is on the situations when autonomic operations are no longer possible. For example, when power is cut down. For example, when automatic operations cannot be conducted, then there must be a clear description on how to use manual processes to replace automatic operations, and the manual processes should be clearly described. The fifth item in the recovery procedures is data redundancy. Okay, the recovery plan should clearly describe how to back up data and how to deal with all the potential, all the possible data damage and data corruption risks. Okay, so not only protecting data from cyber attacks like data corruption attacks, data deletion attacks, but also protecting data from a natural disaster like a hurricane, like a fire. Okay, so all the procedures to generate the sufficient data redundancy should be clearly described. Finally, the recovery plan should include procedures for updating the recovery plan itself. So periodically, when the enterprise network is being changed, is being upgraded, etc., when the people in charge are changed or adjusted, then the recovery plan should also be quickly revised and updated. On this slide and the following slides, we are going to discuss part C of security management, which is intrusion prevention. To understand the management issues of intrusion prevention, we should first understand the intrusion scenarios or the penetration scenarios from the malicious attackers. As we learned in topic 1, there are 3 penetration scenarios. 1. Blind remote penetration. In this category, the attacker has no user access to the target system. The attacker has no user account in the target system, so the attacker can only blindly attack the system. Second, the attacker is located remotely, for example, 1,000 miles away from the target system. So, this is the most difficult situation for the attacker. An attacker needs to rely on the internet to get interconnected with the target system so that his probing requests, his attacking packets can be transmitted, right, from his laptop to the target system, which could be a server, etc. The second type of penetration scenarios is called user level penetration. In this category, the attacker has a user level account, but the attacker is not locally, is not physically close to the target computer. Because the attacker has a user level account, so attacker is authorized to log in, right, using his or her account. After login, the attacker can do more advanced attack. For example, elevate his privilege from a user level privilege to admin level root privilege, etc. The third type of penetration scenario is a physical attack. In this category, the attacker is actually sitting at the computer that he wants to compromise. So, it is typically the easiest situation for the attacker, because in physical attacks, the attacker typically also has a user level account. So after we understand the intrusion scenarios in the real world, we can summarize our intrusion prevention management requirements through a security policy. In lesson 4 of topic 1, we already had a discussion on security policies. So, in this lecture, I will refer our students to topic 1, lesson 4, in terms of what is a security policy, what should be written into a security policy, etc. To do any intrusion prevention management, the security manager must understand the major intrusion prevention measures. On this slide, we classify the major intrusion prevention measures into 7 categories. Category 1, perimeter security and firewalls. The intrusion prevention techniques in this category are already discussed in topic 3 of this course. which is the firewall topic. I refer our students to topic 3 lectures for this category of intrusion prevention measures. Category 2, physical security. Physical security is discussed in topic 1 of this course, and I hope our students can realize that data security requires physical security. Okay, and physical security includes locking the server rooms, and only the admins can have a key to open a lock. Physical security also include installation of the video cameras, so a suspicious criminal can be identified through a video analysis, etc. The third category of intrusion prevention measures is server and client protection. So for this category, first, the security manager must understand the threats and possible attacks against a server or a client. This aspect is discussed in topic 1, okay, of our course. So I refer our students to topic 1. And another major aspect of server and client protection is antivirus. Okay, antivirus software should be installed on every server and on every client. Second, the virus fingerprints should be updated so that they represent the newest knowledge on what viruses are out there. And finally, the alerts generated by antivirus software should be analyzed and examined by the security manager. And a third major aspect of server and client protection is patching, which we will discuss shortly through a case study. The fourth category of intrusion prevention measures is encryption techniques. Is data encryption, traffic encryption, and message encryption. In topic 4, the encryption topic, and topic 6, the virtual private network topic, we have done in-depth discussions on encryption. So I refer our students to topic 4 and topic 6. The fifth category of intrusion prevention measures is authentication. Authentication is discussed thoroughly in topic 5, the authentication topic. I refer our students to topic 5. The sixth category of intrusion prevention measures is intrusion prevention systems. The key technique used by intrusion prevention systems is intrusion detection, which is discussed thoroughly in topic 7, intrusion detection. So I refer our students to topic 7 on this category of intrusion prevention measures. Finally, preventing social engineering. So for this category of intrusion prevention measures, we did discussions in topic 1. So I refer our students to topic 1 on how to deal with social engineering attacks. On this slide, we focus on a critical security management aspect of intrusion prevention, which is how to patch servers or desktops. We all know that computer systems are very complex. The software installed on a server is very complicated. For example, the Windows operating system contains millions lines of code. So, it's not surprising at all that servers, desktops, the software installed on servers, the software installed on desktops, they have a lot of vulnerabilities. And many of the vulnerabilities are actually unknown. That means neither the developer, the vendor, nor the security manager, the administrator know that such a vulnerability exists. When an unknown vulnerability is identified by a hacker, a zero-day attack could be created to exploit the unknown vulnerability. So, every day, the security manager will need to prepare for some zero-day attacks, because this possibility is always there, and is always there together with the servers, with the enterprise networks that is running to support the mission of the organization, etc. Because new vulnerabilities could be identified every day, so patches could be generated every day to fill the security hole indicated fill the security hole caused by the identified vulnerability. However, security managers, security administrators in real world, they have already observed that patches do not always work, which is counterintuition, because it is a patch. So, a patch is supposed to fill a security hole. How come a patch does not work? Here, I give you two reasons which are identified by security professionals in the real world. Reason 1. Patch generation task are sometimes assigned to new programmers in a software company. For example, when a new vulnerability with Windows operating system is identified, a incident report will be sent to Microsoft. Then Microsoft will assign the patch generation task to a programmer. But if the programmer is not very experienced, then something weird could happen. That is, fixing one bug produces another bug as side effect. This seems strange, and our students may not think this is really a real world situation. But unfortunately, this problem is identified many times in real world. That is, when one bug is fixed, the corresponding fixing will produce another bug, which is usually a different bug. This is like one bug is fixed, but a new bug is generated. So the total result is equivalent to there is still one bug. So it's equivalent to there's nothing really accomplished. Okay. This is reason 1. Reason 2. The attacker at the same time may find more vulnerabilities. Okay. So while a patch is being generated, the attacker in the meanwhile may find more vulnerabilities. And accordingly, the attacker in the meanwhile will be creating new attacks. Then after the new attack is launched and got successful, there will be new security incident reports. Then the new security incident reports will be sent to the software company to motivate the generation of another patch. But this workflow is not in favor of the defender because it is lagging behind the hacker. That is, the patch generation is always lagging behind. The patch is generated after the corresponding attack is already successful, after the security accidents have already happened. Based on these two reasons, in the security industry or in the community of security management, there are two philosophies in terms of how to do patching. The first philosophy is called patch more. Okay, so it means this philosophy says patching should be done diligently. The more patching, the better. Of course, to do patching in a diligent way, manual patching is an issue because it could be very slow. It could take 1 month, 2 months to get job done. So now, many people in the security industry are developing automatic patching techniques. The other philosophy is very different, okay, from the patching more philosophy. The other philosophy is denoted pre. This philosophy indicates that the security admin should patch less, should be lazy in patching the servers and the desktops managed by the administrator. Based on not only the two reasons I just mentioned, but also a fact that only 2% unpatched vulnerabilities can result in attacks. So here is the argument for this patchless philosophy. First, this patch could produce another bug, okay, as a side effect, which is already observed in real world, that this possibility is a real thing. Second, on the other hand, only 2% unpatched vulnerabilities can result in attacks. That means 98% unpatched vulnerabilities will not result in any attacks. So due to these two arguments, some security managers argue for the patchless philosophy. So here I give you both philosophies for our students to have a comprehensive viewpoint in terms of the pros and cons of patching. On this slide, we discuss another critical intrusion prevention management issue, which is the spyware issue. So in this case study, Sony, a famous electronics company headquartered in Japan, puts software on their music CD. The purpose of the software, which is essentially a rootkit, is to track user behavior, among other things. Is to monitor what the user is doing with the music CD. But because the user is not notified of this rootkit that is monitoring the user behavior, so this rootkit is essentially a spyware, like a spy tries to know other people's, private or other people's, private behavior, etc. Okay. Although the intention claimed by Sony is that the rootkit is used to fight against piracy, which is a very valid motivation, but the users are not aware that such a rootkit exists. So whether putting a rootkit on a music CD is legal or not is actually debatable. So as a consequence, several other companies sued Sony for this spyware problem. But Sony did not apologize or stop doing this. So this case study is very interesting because it involves not only technical issue, okay, but more importantly is ethical, legal, management, and marketing issues. So I encourage our students to think deeper into this case study and to do more research on this case study. So if you Google the internet with Sony, spyware, etc., you can find a lot of online materials discussing this particular security management issue, and discuss this particular security management case, okay, which is a pretty famous case in security management. With this note, I conclude our lecture on topic 8, security management.